This video demonstrates the standard operating procedure for week 1 of the CSTR experiment, which includes calibration of both flow meters, the peristaltic pump, and the spectrophotometer. Before starting operation, complete the pre-startup safety procedure as follows. Proper PPE must be worn, specifically disposable lab coats and gloves. You will need to make your own solutions of NaOH and dye and store them in the 2,000 milliliter plastic bottles. Keep the bottles contained and away from electrical equipment. Make sure the impeller and pumps are all switched off. Make sure all valves are closed. V100, V101, V103, and V105 should all be closed. You should not need to adjust V104 throughout the experiment. This valve controls the waste flow to the drain. Now check to make sure all tubing connections are secure. Ensure that the tube from V104 is placed in the drain. Fill tanks T100 and T101 with water for the calibration by opening the lids of the tank and then closing the lids before beginning the calibrations. We will now discuss the procedure for an emergency shutdown. The emergency shutdown procedure should be enacted in the case that there is a loss of containment, the pumps run dry, there is a power outage, or excessive heat is generated due to shearing. Operators should step away from equipment once the emergency shutdown procedure has been completed. In the event that the emergency shutdown is required, immediately power down P100, P101, and P103. Now turn off MC100. Close V103 and close all other valves. Have a second operator check that the equipment is properly shut down. The calibration of FC100 and FC101 needs to be done before the experiment to ensure the expected and actual flow rates are consistent. For FC100, the operating limit is from 20 to 120 CCM. For FC101, the operating limit is from 100 to 600 CCM. Place the tube in a waste beaker. Open valve V100. Wait for fluid to reach the pump. Turn on pump P100. Adjust the flow meter to the desired flow reading by reading the center of the floating ball. Now the fluid will fill the reactor. Move the line from the waste beaker to the graduated cylinder and begin timing. Stop timing and remove the tube from the graduated cylinder simultaneously and place it back into the waste beaker. Measure the volume of the collected water to obtain a volumetric flow rate. After the calibration procedure is finished, make sure to put the tube back into the reactor. The calibration of the peristaltic pump P103 is completed to determine the flow rate exiting the reactor in order to control the volume in the reactor in week 2. Fill the reactor R100 with water using a funnel. Make sure the liquid level inside the reactor does not pass the upper limit of 1,000 milliliters. It is recommended to maintain a level between 400 to 500 milliliters. Turn on P103. Open valve V103. Place the tube after V105 in a waste beaker to avoid leaking from the outlet stream. Adjust P103 to desired flow rates. The operating limit is between 0 and 250 RPMs. Have a stopwatch ready. Start timing as you remove the tube from the drain line and place it inside the empty graduated cylinder. Stop timing and remove the outlet tube from the graduated cylinder. Place the tube back into the drain. Measure the volume of the collected sample. Repeat collection for each trial. A standard curve relating the absorbance and concentration of crystal violet dye should be created using the spectrophotometer. Remove the protective cover and turn on the spectrophotometer using the power switch located on the back. You may need to download the WinSpec program onto the computer. If it is not downloaded, go to the library folder and click This PC, DVD drive, setup.exe. Follow the prompts on the screen. When you open the program, it will prompt you to insert the black cuvette. Insert it into the spectrophotometer and click 0%. Now blank the system. Fill a cuvette with 1 milliliter of tap water. Wipe the cuvette with a chem wipe and place the cuvette into a slot. Ensure the correct orientation so that the transparent sides are in line with the light source. It is important to use the same slot throughout the entire experiment. Set the dial to record the correct slot. Press 0A/100% T. The system will now allow you to set the wavelength. Type the desired wavelength to 590 nanometers in the WL setup box. 590 nanometers is the peak wavelength of crystal violet dye. To create the standard curve, create 5 different dilutions of known concentrations using crystal violet dye and water. The highest concentration necessary is a volumetric ratio of 1:9 dye to water. 1 milliliter of solution should be placed in a cuvette for each trial. Insert the filled cuvettes. Do not test multiple samples in the spec simultaneously. The same slot that was used to blank the system should be used. Ensure the dial is still in the correct position to read the desired slot. Record the absorbance displayed on the screen for each trial. The spectrophotometer will now be used to monitor the reaction kinetics. Use the time feature on the WinSpec program by clicking App, then select Time versus Absorbance. Set the test time to 2 minutes. Set the interval to 5 seconds. Press Start. The dye to NaOH volumetric ratio should remain 1:9. The reaction will begin immediately upon mixing of NaOH and CV dye. Therefore, only 1 sample should be made at a time. Place the correct amount of dye in the cuvette. Then place the correct amount of NaOH into the cuvette. Mix quickly and place the cuvette immediately into the spectrophotometer. Press Run. The absorbance should be decreasing with time. After 2 minutes, the data collection will stop. Return to the previous screen. When you press Start again, it will prompt you to save your file. You can now extract the data. In Excel, go to the Data tab. Click on Get External Data. Source to all files so that it can be located. Locate the file and select Open, and a text import wizard will appear. Make sure the Delimited button is selected and hit Next. On the next screen, in the Delimiters area, place a check next to commas as well as tabs, which should be already checked. Click Next. On the last screen, hit Finish. An import data box should appear asking where to place the data. Hit OK once a place for the data has been determined. The data will appear in a spreadsheet in separate columns. Begin cleanup of the experiment. Because samples are diluted, they are sufficiently neutralized and can be disposed of in the sink drain. Save any leftover solution for week 2. This concludes the video of the standard operating procedure for week 1 of the CSTR experiment. See the week 2 video for more instructions.